This is a pandemic a health crisis that's turned into an economic and financial crisis. We will get through it. Everything goes in a cycle. Every boom ends in a bust. Every bust ends in a recovery.
Welcome to nabtrade's Expert Insight series. I'm Gemma Dale, nabtrade's Director of SMSF and Investor Behaviour. We are in unprecedented times and investors are nervous, everybody's nervous. There's a lot to be really concerned about right now. So we're talking to one of Australia's most trusted finance experts, most trusted business journalists, David Koch. You all know him as Kochie. He's the co-host of Sunrise. He's also, though, a business journalist who has decades of experience. He's the chair of OzBs TV, which is soon to launch, and something I think everyone's going to find immensely valuable in this time when up-to-date information is incredibly important. Kochie, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi Gemma, how are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you.
Good.
So interesting times. You've been working in financial markets and business for decades now. Have you seen anything like this before?
Seen nothing like it ever before. Obviously being gone through Asian financial crisis, the crash of 87, even the gold crash of 79, that's how old I am. Been through SARS, but this is one of the markets call it, don't they, a black swan event that no one saw coming. And this is a downturn that's not caused by any economic or financial strain or over-exuberance or a crack in the markets or financial systems or whatever. This is a pandemic a health crisis that's turned into an economic and financial crisis, the likes of which we've never seen before. So it is really uncharted territory, and for a lot of Australians, you know, we're basically going to go into a recession. But no Australian under the age of 47 has experienced an economic recession as a responsible adult. So we have a generation of Australians who don't know what double-digit unemployment's like, that don't understand mass bankruptcies of companies. And that's a very real possibility. That's the worst case scenario, but then if they come up with a vaccine, well, everything's back to normal again. So it's a really uncertain time, and we all hate, and certainly markets hate, uncertainty.
You're absolutely right. Your point about having never seen a recession, I've never worked through a recession.
Yeah.
It was all behind me when I first started working, and we've certainly worked through financial crises, as you mentioned. So markets falling really rapidly, people seeing their savings eroded, seeing their entire retirement savings eroded. Do you think people have reason to be fearful at the moment?
Never be fearful. I'm probably one of my weaknesses is that I'm a supreme optimist. We will get through it. Everything goes in a cycle. Every boom ends in a bust. Every bust ends in a recovery. It's just a matter of timing. And knowledge is power. Clear thinking, I think, is power as well. You know, you can be lying in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, looking at the ceiling, and you know, how many of us have been through that? Then all of a sudden, the cold hard light of day, things look manageable. So I think it's really understanding the realities of the situation, making sure you're well advised on your own individual circumstances, because we're all very different, and working through it. And it depends on your age, your generation. And you know, for me, the 87 share market crash is just a blip in the past. The GFC for a lot of people is a blip in the past. And this will be a blip as well sometime in the future. Let's just hope it's not a massive blip.
Do you have any thoughts for particularly retirees who are really concerned about what's happening to their portfolios right now?
It's always, I think, I go back to the best investment you can ever have is good advice. And it is talking to your advisors on whether the risk profile of your portfolio matches your appetite for risk. You know, years ago, you would say, look, if you're in your early 60s, you should be going very, very conservative and not exposing yourself to risk, because, you know, you'd lived to 70, or that's that's what you'd be planning for. Today, people are living into their 80s, so even at 60, your retirement time frame is still a long way out. So for many people, this will be a bit of a blip going forward, even though they're seeing the erosion of their wealth in this instance. When markets bounce back, we'll move on. But it is just matching your portfolio to your risk profile, and also when you want access to more of your cash in superannuation and pensions and the like.
So a lot of investors have been moving out of cash because interest rates are so low.
Bad. Yeah.
Do you think that's a concern? People are still going to be sort of that trade-off between risky markets and no return on cash?
It is still a trade-off, but it's a way of, and a lot of retirees would have been saying, okay, I can get the cash through dividends. So let's go into bank stocks and the high dividend earners who have all taken a pummeling. Remember, this only started on the 20th of February. This is a month. 6 weeks ago, we were pigs in mud. We were thinking, yes, we're going well. So this has been so short, so sharp, that it's rattled everybody. And I don't think we've had a pandemic like this in the past, but if you look at SARS, you look at MERS, you look at Ebola, we were reasonably protected from those, but certainly Asia wasn't, and Africa wasn't, and financial markets were still very concerned. Economies did bounce back pretty quickly after it, and hopefully history repeats itself in this, because yes, we're in for 6 months of a pretty hard time because we're going into winter, we're going into our flu season, whereas the Northern Hemisphere is coming out of it. They've got this on the back end of their winter, we've got this on the front end of the winter, so it could be a bit more protracted for us in terms of the economic effects. But our trading partners, you would think, would start to bounce back, like the word, and putting my Port Adelaide football hat on, because we have a lot of interest in China, a lot of commercial partners in China, and have staff based in Shanghai. Sort of talking to them is China's really getting back on its feet pretty quickly. So supply chain will start to resume. China's our biggest market, consumer market, so that they're already starting to bounce back. So hopefully we can hang on to the coattails of that to make our winter a bit easier.
That's encouraging. It's nice to hear stories about people getting back to work. You've been a massive advocate of small businesses in particular, business in general, but particularly small businesses. What's your advice for small business owners at the moment?
All the advice I'm getting, and from previous downturns, is you've got to restructure your cost base to meet the drop-off in revenue. You've got to make hard decisions. You've got to make hard decisions between, yes, loyalty to staff and workforce, and the long-term viability of your business. And a lot of them are family businesses, and the family comes first. So you've got to make hard decisions, make them early, make them hard, and try and weather the storm. Now, a lot of it will be based on what the federal government does. It's fantastic to see the Reserve Bank and the federal government working together, unlike in the United States. Now, what a cock case that is. Where's Donald Trump in all of this? He's still at war with the Federal Reserve and the other side of politics. Terrible at the moment. Our guys are doing it well. Also, it's great to see the government taking advice of Treasury rather than making political decisions on this. These are sound economic decisions, not unlike what the Rudd government did for the GFC. Everyone bagged that response to the GFC. History has shown it was exactly the right thing to do. And in fact, now countries around the world are doing exactly the same thing as Kevin Rudd did back in 2007, 2008. Short, sharp sugar hits. There's talk that Trump's going to give every American $1,000, not unlike the $900 that Rudd did to all of us and got panned for. Short, sharp sugar hits, and then medium-term stimulus, and then longer-term stimulus. So I think our government is doing pretty well. So we'll try and, as Scott Morrison has said, building a safety net in terms of health system and changes to behaviour, and then building a cushion for business. And so I think that's going to be pretty important.
For those of us who don't work in small business and are privileged enough to work for businesses that are likely to make it through this, we certainly hope banks make it through, because it's going to get pretty ugly if they don't. How do we support small business?
It is spending with them. It is just supporting them. It could be as simple as buying a gift card, going and buying gift cards for Christmas now from the small business, that they're getting the cash, and you're giving it away in 6 months' time when the industry's back on its feet and the economy's back on its feet. It's understand big business can pay small business on time. It's a big thing for big business to do. Don't use small business as your bank and your cash flow solution. So paying small business on time or early is really important, and supporting your suppliers going through as well. Like if small business owes you money, to understand if they're in trouble, to work it through, because most small business owners are just pretty decent people trying to make a living.
So you're the chair of OzBs TV. Australia's been crying out for a business channel. Haven't had one for a little while. Tell us all about it.
Well, it's been really interesting for me because this has been my first startup. I've invested money in startups, mainly fintechs, for a while, but the first time I've raised some money to get it up and going. But when My Money, Your Money channel and Sky Business closed down, there was just a gaping hole in terms of information of coverage of the Australian market at the moment. You can only get it out of TV channels that are based in Hong Kong and Singapore, really don't care about Australia and what we're doing. So we saw a gap in the market. It's a streaming service which is available. It will have its own app, so you can watch it anywhere, anytime. You can sync it to your smart TV or access it on your smart TV through the 7plus platform. It'll be streamed live on 7news.com.au, which is the fourth biggest digital news site in the country, and also on every Iris terminal. So we'll be covering the markets from 8 in the morning through to 4:30 in the afternoon in phase one of it, and it'll just be an Australian business channel. Everything you want to know about the share market, business news, investing, and phase two, you'll be able to transact on it, so which will be fascinating.
When does it launch?
Launches the 30th of March, so right in the middle of a crisis. Don't think I haven't been having sleepless nights, but yeah, it's very exciting, and we've got a lot of the Sky Business team will be working on it as well. So it will be a lot of the finance journalists and analysts that you've known and loved in the past.
Well, I think it's perfect time because it's when everyone's absolutely desperate for information and insights and keeping up to date.
And people will be able to see you on it too, which will be great.
Might have something to do with it. David, thanks so much for your time today.
Good on you, Gemma. Thank you.